Here's a real quick video on color manipulation for Module 13. We've got just a couple of really kind of basic images and some color manipulations that I've done on them. First, we'll talk about a couple of different ways that you could change the color red on these pliers. Now, granted, I've got it masked out already from a previous module, and we'll actually discuss the benefits of doing that in a color manipulation as well. But there's two different ways that I'll show you to change the red portions of these handles to some other color, yellow, blue, green, whatever you like. First way is actually a destructive edit. So I'm going to make a duplicate layer so that it's in essence a non-destructive edit, and I'm going to edit this topmost layer. So I'll go up to Image and get Adjustments, because this particular one I don't think is available in an adjustment layer right now. Replace Color. And this gives us a little color range selection, and I can hit the eyedropper on a part of the color here, and you can see in my color range it selects the pieces that are red on that image. I can get the eyedropper with a plus sign and add to that selection, get the shadows and highlights, or I can subtract from that selection. Now if this selection isn't good enough, I can add or subtract to the fuzziness. In other words, expand or contract that selection based on the color range. And remember, these pliers, the photo was taken on a wood floor, so there's a little bit of reddish tone in that wood floor. So if I take the fuzziness all the way out, some of that floor comes into play. Of course, I have that masked out, which is the advantage, and we'll take a look at that. So I'll move this fuzziness back, and now on the replacement, I'll just change the hue, and we can change that to a blue or a yellow perhaps. And you can see with the fuzziness as is, I'm not getting quite all of the red. Not quite all of that red is changing. I'll expand the fuzziness, and you can see more and more of that red changes to yellow as I go. And I get out to here, and I get a pretty good color change from red to yellow. Of course, really, if I had the whole photo, I'd be changing part of the floor, but I've got that masked out, so that's a good thing. And let's take a look at that. I'll click OK, and I'll do a control click to disable that vector mask, and there's my floor. Here's before, let's see, control click to disable that vector mask as well. There's before and there's after, and the floor has gone a little bit yellow-green. If I were to do that again and change it to maybe a cool color, you'd see an even more dramatic difference in the floor. But that makes a great case for masking something out in a case like this. There we go. And I'll choose not to view that other image. And here are my pliers with the handles changed from red to yellow. Now I'll show you yet another way to accomplish this, and this will also be a destructive edit, so I'll make yet another duplicate layer, and I'll use a tool here called the Color Replacement tool, and it's a kind of a brush tool. You see we get a diameter, and there's a little crosshair in the middle. Now I'm going to choose a different foreground color, let's say blue this time, and I'm going to change this red to blue. So what winds up in the crosshair, actually let me zoom in on this a bit, not quite so much, there we go. What winds up in the crosshair is the part that we're going to sample. Color Replacement tool, there we go. That's the part we're going to sample, and the part that is within the diameter of that brush is the part that's going to get changed if it matches that sample in the middle. So here I'll click, and if it's red within the brush, it's getting changed. If it's white or black or some other color besides the red, it's not getting changed. And just like our Magic Wand tool or other color selection tools, we can set a tolerance for this. You can see I might want to expand my tolerance just a skosh because I'm not getting the edges, and those edges will be really hard to get with this tool. Um, and I can sample some other place on here. Now, what do you think is going to happen when I click? It's sampling where the crosshairs are, and it's changing everything within the diameter. So yes, when I click, that's masked out. Let me do something that's not masked out here. Let's see. There we go. So when I click, it's sampling that, and when I mouse over it with the diameter of the brush, it's changing it. So these gray pixels are changing to blue now. But I don't really want that. I just want to change the red handles to blue. Let's expand that tolerance just a bit and see if we can get those little dark shadows. Now I'll mouse over that and we'll change from red to blue. And that's doing a pretty fair job. So either tool will work. Oops. And I moused out into the black area. I let my crosshair dip across into that black shadow, and it changed a chunk of the black part of the handle to blue. So be careful where you do this. You may want to make a couple of different moves, like so. There we go. And that's just about got it. Arguably, I could have had my tolerance a little more. I'm getting some little edges there. Those you could zoom in and pick up in a different way. But that's the basics of the color manipulation tool. Now let's take a look at some of the other color manipulations. Here I've got just some bricks from our lovely Art and Design Center building. And I've taken them, these are color adjustment layers. So these are non-destructive edits. I've taken them through the black and white. Now you may have in the past gone up to image and gotten image mode and just converted to grayscale, and Photoshop just makes its best guess that way. The difference is with black and white you can adjust a number of sliders, and this image had a lot of reds and a lot of yellows in it, and we can say, hey Photoshop, take those yellows in this image, make them lighter or make them darker, and this is a great way to emphasize different parts of that image. You may have a much more interesting image than this. I certainly hope so. Maybe some with some human beings in there. And this is a way that you can make the human beings pop out a little bit more from their background if that's what you want to do with the photo. And you can take kind of an ordinary black and white photo and make it into, or what would be a black and white photo from a color photo, take an ordinary adjustment like that and make it into, you know, a prize-winning adjustment if you know what you're doing and if you have a good eye for what to emphasize or de-emphasize in a photo. Here, reds on this one, obviously red bricks. We can adjust the reds extensively and make this into a completely different image, really, if we want to. Greens and cyans and blues, not so much in this particular image. It's a very warm image in terms of the reds and yellows. Even the magentas, there's not a whole lot. Now blues I did take out quite a bit, but this was my black and white adjustment. Now once I've got it adjusted down to a black and white or grayscale, I could save it out to grayscale at that point, and then I would get a grayscale image with the emphasis that I chose in my color balance. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to make yet another color adjustment here. I've got a hue and saturation adjustment, and here's what I've done with that. I'll double click on it, and you can just change the hue. If you've got a grayscale image and you want to make it, you know, an all purple image, or you know, if you've got photos of, I don't know, various kinds of lighting and so forth, or various kinds of color balance, and you want to just make them all grayscale like this essentially, and then tint them with a specific tint, this would be a good way to do that. You know, if you were using those photos to illustrate a chapter in a book and you wanted, you know, your theme color for that chapter was blue or something, this would be a way to do that. You can also do a color change, and this you can apply to a person. You can choose a hue, and then this adjustment layer, it's an adjustment layer, it comes with a mask. All adjustment layers come with a mask, and you can make a selection of an individual brick, or with a person, you could select their eye color, their lips, their hair, their piece of clothing, whatever, and make that a particular color, leaving the rest of the image black and white. And so I'll go to my mask, and I will, let's see, invert that selection, and I will paint black on my mask. And now I've masked out everything except this one chosen brick. This brick is now red, sort of, and the rest of the image is black and white. We could do yet another adjustment for hue and saturation, another adjustment layer, and I could do that same thing again. I could select an individual brick like this. I've just got my polygon lasso here, and just click, 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 and I've got a brick selected. For my mask, I can invert this selection and paint the rest of my mask. Now here's the mask that I just painted. Nothing's changed yet because, and I can deselect now that I've got my mask made, nothing's changed yet because I haven't applied any hue or saturation adjustment to this. And let's see if hello, we've got to click colorize here if you want that change to take effect. Click colorize, very important, and we can have any number of colors on any piece of this that we like. That can be a lot of fun for colorizing a previously black and white image. Of course, if it's a grayscale image already, you need to just bring it into RGB mode in order to accomplish this. So that's a lot of fun. That's an adjustment that can be a lot of fun, make a great holiday gift for somebody, with portraits and so forth, using that same technique. Now this one's gradient map, and we're mapping a color of our gradient to the lights or darks in here. So in this one, I am mapping, let's see, I'm mapping this greenish color to the darkest shadows, and the highlights get blue. Now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a little bit backwards. It's a little bit like a negative. This one can make sense here, although the dynamic range of this photo is pretty tight. Let's see. There we go. So I can apply yellow to the lighter parts of this photograph, red to the midtones, and purple and blue to the shadows. Here's what I get. So it's gradient map. It's mapping pieces of that gradient to corresponding lights and darks in the image. So when we map a gradient like this that goes dark to mid to light, it makes a lot of sense. If I were to flip this around, it starts to look like a weird color negative. Maybe not so noticeable on the bricks. Of course, now it looks like we've got a light source coming up from underneath, casting shadows at the top. With a landscape or a human being, this would start to look a little spooky after a while, and if that's your intent, then that's cool. But those are just a few of the techniques from the list in this module. There's some that I didn't include. There's one called Match Color that you can read about and experiment with. That's when you want to sort of match the color palette of one photo onto another. That you can read up and experiment for one of the higher grade assignments, as well as some of the advanced manipulations that you can do with levels and curves. Those they talk about those in the chapter as well. And also the channel mixer. There's a great little demo that they do in the book with the channel mixer, and that's good reading, so I won't spoil that for you. So that is a sampling of videos. These will certainly get you through to your basic A if you use any or all of these techniques. Well, I should say if you use all these techniques on some photos in accordance with what's in the module. So have fun. This should be a fun assignment. Take care.